Welcome to the podcast Sitting Tall with me, Casey Ellen, and my buddy.
Tony Chamberlain.
Tony and I met at this amazing program called Empower Spinal Cord Injury, and it basically changed our lives and it brought us together. We will be interviewing people from all walks of life, from able-bodied to disabled. We just want to break down the walls, break down barriers, and we just want to basically have people know that there's more than just what you see. We are
Sitting tall.
Bow chicka wow.
Brown chicken, brown cow. Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to the podcast. This is our next guest coming in, Sherown, Campbell. This is all Casey because these two met online, and it's going to be a beautiful thing, I think. So I can't wait for the conversation.
Yeah, when you we met online, that sounds a little creepy. Like,
Listen,
I mean, I might have slid in his DMs just to say what's
there
up.
is nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, I scroll through Casey's page liking everything.
That's exactly. I feel like I feel like if you go through, if there's like a way to track everything, I feel like we probably like each other's stuff the most.
I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that.
I mean, I just wanted to get it. For the audience out there, if you can just give a little background about yourself, like even before 2014, before all that, give us a little rundown of who you, because I saw on the gram, you playing track, all this stuff. Like, give us a little background story.
Yeah, just a normal guy here in Colorado. Before 2014 and all the injury stuff, ran track in college, I was a cheerleader for a couple of years as well in college. Got into CrossFit, have two little ones. And then the big turning point in life was wrestling around with a friend and breaking my neck and ending up paralyzed. So since then, it was kind of a life becomes before injury and after injury. And, you kind of have to separate those two because it's really hard to compare life with those two things. But now just focusing on recovering what I can, being a father, have a fiance now. So just doing the normal suburban dad thing.
All good things, man.
Awesome.
So you said 2014, you're wrestling around with a buddy, right? So
Yeah.
What happened? What level? All that. Like, give us the nitty gritty, Betty.
Oh man, we were wrestling around and I was being hard headed, not tapping out. He got the better of me and got me in a leg lock and was just yanking my head out and something slipped and heard my neck pop and my whole body just went limp and ended up fracturing C4 and C5. So that left me paralyzed as a quadriplegic.
Yeah, because that was one of the things I feel like when I saw, on your page, and like I saw, because I'm C4, 5, 6 too. And I was like, because you're obviously, I'm assuming it's incomplete since you're,
Correct.
Yeah. And just seeing you pushing and like getting out of the chair, I'm still in the power chair, and just seeing how you were able to like push through all that. And I always like, whenever I read your post, you always have something positive to say. It's always about, you're always focusing on the mental, about like, and I just wanted to know where did that come from? Where did your mental toughness come from? Because, obviously like Tony and myself, like it's just something that for me, it just kind of happened. Like, I don't even know, like something flipped and then I just grind out.
Yeah, it's been kind of a mix doing sports growing up and stuff. You get really in that mindset and that habit of just always trying to get better, like no matter what sport you're in. And I always tell, my kids and other people too, like even the best athlete is still practicing every day. Like they're still trying to improve. They're still trying to get better. So you really get in the habit of doing things like that, like just from sports. But then before my injury, I've lost my father when I was younger, and then my sister actually passed away. She was struggling with depression and committed suicide like 6 months before my injury. And so for better or worse, that forced me into a place where I was really working through, a process of grief, dealing with mentally recovering from that, dealing with like a lot of emotions. And that almost like prepped me for dealing with my own stuff because I had just got done, working through, a process of grief. And oddly, at least for me, when I was injured, it was almost like a process of dealing with, my own passing. Like you see people come together, you see people, dealing with your affairs, like went through selling, motorcycle, car, home. Like you're kind of like looking from the outside in on,
Hmm.
a closing of your life in a way.
Yeah, totally agree. Because you see, it's like having an estate sale, like
Yeah,
like and then it's just like all your old, it's like shedding a skin of kind of like a snake, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
And
it's
it's a
definitely like
whole.
shedding the skin.
Hmm. And I
Hmm.
saw you
yeah.
said you cheerleaded. I don't know if you, my boy here, Tony Chamberlain, he was a little bit of a cheerleader back in his day too. So that was a nice. I didn't know that. That was cool.
It's very funny because before you jumped on and before we started recording, we just started speaking like generally about like things, and cheerleading did come up, and I was like, hey, I was also a cheerleader. I mean, we were two different type of cheerleaders. He was a university cheerleader, and I was an all-star cheerleader, and there is a difference in worlds. And maybe we'll have to go down that rabbit hole with our next guest because she is a coach in cheerleading. So we'll talk all about that in the next episode. But
Mm.
yeah, but that's definitely a similarity, and I can understand where he's coming from, where it's saying you're an athlete, and like with athletes, you should know that like no matter what, like we're always pushing to better ourselves, and we're always pushing to 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 see the progress and build the body up, and like no matter what, like my mindset was always like that, even though like after my injury, like I was like, damn, this sucks. My life's gonna suck after this. But then I got to that point where I'm like, I can do this. I can push myself. I can make myself better. And that's when I think a switch definitely, you know, turned in my head, and I was just like, all right, let's go. And that's why I said I was watching some of his videos, and I was like, yeah, I was inspired, man. I went to the gym yesterday for the first time in a long time, and I was like, yeah, I need to get on this game again. You know what I mean? So yeah,
Yeah.
that's awesome.
Yeah, it's funny when you called me last night. Tony called me last night, and he was like, "Yo," he's like, "I was looking at your boy's page, and he was just like, I had to go to the gym." He's like, "I had to hit the gym."
I had
Because
to
it's
do it,
like,
man.
and that's kind of like I like how like obviously we didn't aim out our lives like, and I'm sure you can speak to the same thing. Like you didn't start your life to want to inspire people or to like you're just trying to live your life, and then now the accident happens, and especially when I see you like on the Peloton or on the treadmill, just walking with the cane, and like all jokes aside, bro, like you're ripped up, you're shredded, and just like seeing that, it's like all right, man, he could do like I could do more. Like I might be able to push a little bit more. Or I might be able to like maybe like after I saw back in 2014 and we started corresponding, my right arm I couldn't move it, and like just seeing you working out, like it just made me want to work harder. And then like I was able to gradually, now I can move both arms a little bit. So it's like it's just crazy how when you see something, it could spark something inside you to just get to
Definitely.
that next level.
Yeah, and it's such a mutual respect. 'Cause I follow other pages and yours as well, and I always see people working hard, and like I'm grateful for where I'm at now, but being in the position before, like in a power chair, like all that stuff, like still hits me every single day. Where I'm always like trying to work hard and trying to improve, and I feel like if I'm getting a chance to move something or getting the chance to recover anything, I'm going to make the best of it. And especially all the family members and friends and people that have helped so much, it almost feels like this unrepayable debt. Like they've done so much for me that the only way that I can even say thank you or start giving something back is just by putting forth the effort that I can every day and making the most of it.
Dude, couldn't
100%
say it
agree,
better
man.
myself. Couldn't say it
Hmm.
better myself.
I have a question for you since we're just flowing here. What was your mindset in like the beginning of your journey? Like say freshly injured. I kind of want to ask this to everybody that that comes along that that is in the similar situation that we are. But like, what was your mindset like after you got hurt and you're in this hospital going like you're thinking to yourself, all right, now what's the next step in my life, or like how am I going to live my life? Like what were you thinking?
Oh, honestly, I felt like I needed to work on things on my own, but the most hurtful, painful thing was I was married at the time and having kids and everything else. And like I said, my family was just dealing with the loss of my sister and stuff as well. And I felt like I was adding such a burden onto all of those people and all of those things. And so trying to figure out how I can make it as easy as possible. And for me, my attitude, my mindset, me handling things well, trying to be upbeat and just manage things the best that I could was going to make it easier for everyone else. And so wanted to make sure that I was taking care of that. And then oddly, it's a weird analogy or I guess a thought process, but it was almost like a Rocky Ford type thing where, I could deal with this on my own. Like I could push myself by myself. Like I almost wanted to just be alone so I could grind things out, but I had to make sure to, think about my family, think about my kids, and try to find a way to, I guess, slowly work back. It's such a big process. Like it's hard to, really break it down to one point.
Yeah, I don't think there's any right answer, but like I'm saying, like everybody has their own process. Like I know that when I had my injury, like at first, like I clearly thought like, oh, I'm gonna walk again, I'll be fine and everything like that. That was the stuff that was going through my head. But then I slowly started realizing that, I'm probably not gonna get to that point, but there is something I can do to make myself better. And I think that's what you have to do. It's like you have to, take your injury and like, almost like take that second wind and go, all right, this is another part of my life that like it's almost like you're like you said, you're shedding the skin, becoming like a phoenix per se, where like you come from the ashes and you just you push yourself to always better your life and to make sure that you do everything you possibly can to do that, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, because that's
Yeah, and
when
I
you
try to work to.
you
Oh,
good. Go
sorry.
ahead. Oh no, this is you, baby.
No, I was gonna say I try to work hard to better myself, and there's I think things in everyone's past that we try to recover from or rebound from, but when you go through something like this, every small thing you become so much more grateful for it, and it's like man, just that quality time with family members. Like I remember my grandma spending time with me at the hospital, like the friends that came by, and even just guy and brotherly love from friends, like people that come by and hold my hand and just like sit there, like that stuff meant so much. And the things and relationships that I didn't take for granted before, but I just didn't realize like how good those things were until I was so limited in what I could do.
Hmm. Yeah, it's the small things. It definitely is the
Yeah.
small things, and that's one thing that I definitely noticed that like after injury that like when you actually take a step back and you take it all in, your support is huge. The people around you that want to be in your life will be in your life, but also the people that that you thought were in your life are there for you. You also see that side to life totally differently too. Like that's how I feel. I can't speak for you two, but that's how I totally look at every day differently nowadays. You know what I mean? So
Yeah, I had people that
100%.
I thought disliked me and they came by and, were feeding me and stuff at the hospital. I was like, oh man, this is so humbling right now.
yeah.
Um, but there's some really good, genuine and caring people out there. And I'm glad I didn't burn too many bridges before the injury happened.
Like you said, definitely very, very humbling. And I know you when you mentioned before how it was like you kind of have that life before and life after. Like, it's hard to like I'm sure I don't know about you, but like I don't really remember life before. Like when people are like, "Oh, do you miss things?" I'm like, honestly, like I honestly feel like this is just how life is. Like I don't really
Yeah.
remember walking, to be honest. Like I don't like, and people say that and they look at me and they start getting like a sad. I'm like, no, I'm like I don't mean that in like a negative way. Like I'm embracing where my life is, and what I can do is just only get a little bit better every single day, and just push, and see where it takes me.
Yeah. And I mean, it's hard to compare the two. I actually had a chat with one of my friends a couple weeks ago because I'm getting up there in age and hit my 40th. And we went on a trip to Mexico. And I told him, I was like, man, this is one of the first times I've had such a good trip where it wasn't, it's one of the best trips I've had since injury or since this or that. Like it was just one of the best trips, period. And I was like, for me to have that feeling and for it to be that significant where it was such a big life experience and I didn't have to compare before injury or after injury. I was like, man, that's a good time. That's like a lot of love and support from my friends. And, especially to be, injured for almost a decade now and not have to compare it or think about anything else and just purely enjoy life and have some good times. Like that was a really good feeling.
Yeah, I saw some pictures. I saw those pictures on the gram. Looked like
Yeah, I
you guys
did
had
too.
a
That looked
blast.
like great time
Yeah,
right there. I was a little
Yeah.
jealous, I'm not gonna lie. I was like, man, I need to do this.
you got hey man, you got a good group of friends. Like that's good. You got a good
Yeah.
support system, and that
Yeah.
that means the world to. I'm sure me. Like I have a good support system. So Tony, like that means it's a game changer to have people in your corner, no matter what you're doing, like how you are, like walking, not walking, wheelchair. The people who stick by you and have that connection and just that support. It's it's life changing.
Yeah.
And like
Yeah.
it's humbling, like you said before, like with people you might not even think that liked you. They came in, like the same thing. Like, I remember seeing in the waiting room, like, man, I'm like, I haven't seen these people in like 6, 7 years. We haven't spoken. They're like, at the hospital, like just, like you said, just holding your hand or something. Just like, it's just the little things.
Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's cool when you see that and stuff too. And I feel like that's made me a better person as well, just because I realize like how caring and how good some people are, and
Yeah.
um, it made me want to do better. It made me want to give back, and um, we have a good spinal cord injury hospital here in Colorado called Craig Hospital, and I spend any time that I can getting down there and mentoring people that are just injured, and trying to talk them through the process, because early on it was like I never met or I never got to talk to anyone that had been injured for 10 or 15 years. Like, I wanted to know what life was going to be like down the road, and everybody in the hospital was going through the same transition that I was, so I didn't really have anyone that could speak to, when you get home, like, things will get better, life will get better, you can enjoy these things with your kids. Like, I didn't really get to talk to anyone about those transition phases, and so I try to make sure that I give back, and I try to let them know, like, and I mean, sometimes we don't always want to hear it, but it gets better. It just takes
Yeah.
time, and it is a process. And once you break it down and you can learn from others, then for me, it made it so much easier learning from other peers that were going through the same thing.
Yeah, I think a lot of people need to hear that because when you're freshly injured, you kind of think the world's over sometimes, and like if you don't have anybody to like lean on, it definitely makes you question a lot of things. I had actually a mentor early on when I was in the hospital, and he was pretty much the same level as me. I think they do this purposely. They try to find somebody that's like the same level and the same like, like mindset and all that stuff, and they try to put you guys together. And when he came in the room, he told me all about his story and everything, and it did. It made me feel a lot better when you can look at somebody and say, okay, if this person down the line is doing well, and yeah, he went through all the hard times, but it does get better. It's just like anything in life. After I always say to people like, it's always going to be dark, but you can always look forward to seeing the sunrise every day. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like there's always days like that, but with people like you, like I said, when I just watch your Instagram, I'm like, oh man, this guy's got it. Like, you know what I mean? Like he's got the push, but then you don't see what's behind the not Instagram, the days where you have tough and you're like, oh man, like I really don't want to do this, but I'm sure there's something that pushes you and drives you, and it's good to see that you reach out to other people and say, look, this is how life can be after injury. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and even the injury stuff aside, like, I do think they try to pair people up, but I know I'm not always built or the right person to talk to for being overly sensitive. Like, I do like to push myself pretty hard, and I do like to push others pretty hard. So, um, it's being aware of those things and everyone's different personalities. Like, I'm probably too hard for some people that really need sensitivity when they're just starting out, and for other people that want to, get after it and find ways to improve or push the limits of it, then, I'm the perfect person to talk to in that area.
Yeah, that's why me and Tony we came about and we wanted to start this podcast because, it might not get the most traction in the world. Who knows? Like, if somebody like one person sees it, and they see us, like, just living life and doing, just being ourselves, and like if somebody had like if that affects one person and makes them feel like more comfortable, or just like seeing like, okay, like things could get better, like things will get better,
Mhm.
like that's just, I feel like that's a game changer for me. Like I feel like that's all worth it for what we're doing. Just trying
Yeah.
to spread positivity, and we got to get. You know what? I think Tony. I think we got to get him out to empower. I
Oh,
feel like, you
100%.
know,
Hmm.
I don't know if you've seen the program that's where me and Tony met at the spinal
Uh-uh.
cord. We met at a spinal cord program. It's like usually a 2 week thing. And it has recreational therapy, physical therapy. It just kind of shows you that there's life after the accident. Like there's
Yeah.
you can still live and be and do like adaptive sports and all this kind of stuff. And I
Hmm.
feel like, I don't know. I'll send you some information afterwards. I think it
Yeah.
might be, if you have time to, if you can swing it. I think you'd
Yeah,
be
I
good.
think the program would definitely uh, love to have you around because they're always looking for representation of just just pushing people like to better their lives, because the whole point of the program is to live more of an independent life, and a lot of people are afraid to do that, or they don't know how to do that. So this program is great because it puts people together, because it's like a community, just like Casey said, we both met through it. And it's just weird, man. It's just like it puts you in another level. It makes you feel good. It makes you push yourself, and it also shows you that there's other things to do besides just, sitting at home and, like, sitting in your sorrow most of the time. And it's like I said, it's a great program, and I mean, I'd love to have you there. I mean, I'd feel inspired as soon as I saw you. I'd be like, all right, this guy's doing something right. I need to definitely, change my outlook on this.
Yeah, and I can't take too much credit for it because some of the things were just kind of forced, like being a father of two. Um, Once I had divorced and like trying to be a parent on my own, like with the injury, I mean, there's no days off. So it was like,
Yeah.
I thought about if I can just get up and down the stairs like once a day, then I could handle that. But then it was like, second I got downstairs, like, Dad, can I get another bowl of cereal or I can get more milk? And it's like, I learned how to get up and downstairs way more than I wanted to. And like just trying to figure out like day to day living, there's a lot of things where if it was just me, I probably would have, took some days off or took it easier. But with like two kids, it was, I have to get up and get this figured out. Like, and, step by step was able to not just live independently, but be able to care for them and help them and enjoy and do things, that I wanted to be able to do as a father and provide for them. So
Mhm.
that was a huge motivation and a big push for me.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, that's sometimes that's all it takes too. You know what I mean? There is different aspects because, like I was talking to you about, I'm a single guy. I don't have a family, so like I pretty much go day by day, do whatever I want to do. But then there's the aspect that you said, there's a family life. In a way, it's making you better every day, even though you don't want to do it half the time. You know what I mean? Like a guy like me, I can just be like, all right, I don't feel like doing it, so I'm not going to do it today, just like you said. So yeah, I can see both ends of it.
Yeah, and you got to push yourself and be a little hard headed at times. Like I remember one of the times like my brother and my mom had got me into the bathtub, and I was like, I'm just gonna try to keep working and see if I can figure out how to get out of this bathtub. And I think maybe 2 hours went by of me just kicking around in the bathtub, like just trying to get out of there somehow, some way. She was like, "Are you still in there?" I was like, "Yeah, just leave me alone for a couple more minutes. I'm still trying to figure this thing out." And I mean, I couldn't get out of the bathtub like that day, but trying over and over again, eventually I was able to start figuring out how to transfer in and out. And, it's those little things of independence that were making it easier for me, giving me, some privacy, some independence, making it easier on my family. But those little building blocks, just kind of kept developing over time. And, I still have a lot of limitations now, but, what I'm able to do now from like where I started, if I didn't push the way that I did, then I certainly wouldn't have made it this far.
I have a couple questions for you, just because we were talking about the motivation and stuff like that, and like I know me and Tony talked a little bit last night, but like, what would you say if like you were able to talk to somebody and what would you say to somebody struggling? Like, what would be your words, the Sherown words of wisdom, to let them know, like what would you say?
Oh man. See, if someone's struggling though, that's the hard part because you can't be too tough or push things too much. But I mean, it would probably be patience,
Hmm.
um, just across the board, whether you're working hard for something or you're at a point where you're struggling to get through. You just have to be patient with yourself. There's times where I'm motivated, I'm really working hard and getting through things. And then there's days, and most of the time it's just maintenance. Like, how can I keep from sliding back, or how can I get through this tough month or tough week or injury or strained muscle from spasms, whatever it may be. A lot of times it's just patience and maintaining so you can ride the waves when things are good and, not fall back when things get tough.
Patience. I feel like we all, whoever's been through some sort of traumatic injury or like this, patience is probably the number one thing that we have to have. Because
Mhm.
I mean, my patience, I was a very impatient person before my accident. Like, I'm like, I need this now. I'll go get it now. And then it was like, hey, after I got hurt, it was like, oh, okay.
Mhm.
I'll have to just kind of, you know, zen it out and just patience is, my mind is now I'm good. But in the beginning,
Yeah. You have to have monk-like patience at
Oh,
some
dude.
point.
You
Yeah, the
do.
monk like patience is that, put that on a t-shirt. That is it right there.
Yeah, I remember being at the hospital. One of my friends was running late, and he was supposed to take care of me that day, and you know, feed me, help me with water, leg bag, the whole thing. And I
Yeah.
remember he was like 10 or 15 minutes late, and I was so used to being on time. I'm like, "Where's he at?" This, and I'm like, "I'm sitting here stuck in a hospital. I can't go nowhere. Can't do anything." I'm just grateful he's showing up whatever time he shows up.
Exactly. Yep.
Hmm.
And so you have to kind of adjust some of the things and your expectations and, just learn to be happy for what you have.
Hmm. And I always see, through our following, you always have. Seems like you're always out there crushing goals or like setting. You always kind of set something and you try to strive for it. Do you have any current goals or anything that you're working towards at the moment?
A couple things that I've been wanting to do, like here in Colorado, we call them 14ers, like any mountain over 14,000 feet. I haven't done one since I've been injured, and I think I can do one, but I mean, there's so much that goes into it just because of the weather conditions and how far it is. And um, if something were to happen, even like a rolled ankle, for me, it's just so much more challenging getting back down to a car or getting help. So want to be able to do that at some point. Uh, I also got an e-bike last year, and I can get around on it if I'm using the motor completely, but just being able to balance and get around and ride a bike with my kids this summer. So I'm looking forward to improving and being able to do that a bit more. Um, Other than that, it's just little things here and there. You know, trying to fix up my house some, and hopefully wrapping up a wedding from an engagement last year, and
That's amazing.
yeah, regular life stuff.
Yeah, yes. And I saw you guys. You just went to Disney. How
Yeah.
was that? Was that like were you able to get around all right? Because I know you walk with the cane a little bit.
I use forearm crutches most of the time. I was planning on getting a scooter there because I know it's just big and it was about 90 degrees there, but they were out of scooters, so it came down to a manual wheelchair and getting pushed around. Like I'm not very good using a manual chair. Like myself, my left arm and left shoulder don't do much, so I kind of just go in circles. So I had to have family help me get around, but I was able to get in and out of the chair and stuff onto a couple rides. So I mean, just being able to do those things and experience it, and that's worthwhile.
Yeah, that's amazing. I'm sure the kids loved it.
Yeah, I mean, it was a good time. It's so big though. We only went for a
Oh
day because we were at the beach the rest of the day. So I was like, man, this needs to be a full week next
yeah,
time.
you need like a full month to go through the whole Disney, Universal, all that stuff, man.
Could you
Yeah,
please shut
definitely.
down the park for me so I can go through it like the way I
Yeah,
want to? Thank you. I appreciate that.
yeah, seriously.
Yeah, definitely. No, but it's those things too where I'm still learning new stuff and still learning how to get around and what I can and can't manage, and so each experience and thing like that, I'm learning something new and seeing what I can do, and then setting goals for next time or next trip, and hopefully I'll get to go back again. But
Yeah,
if not, just to be able to like share that experience with them or be able to get on a ride with them, it was
that's
a good moment.
definitely. Yeah, like you said, it's the new normal. It's just you have to, so the way you adapt and you have to get around now. Like it's just this is how you have to do it, and that's it. Like, you just got to embrace it and go for it.
Yeah, and I know everybody has different things that they're working with, but the scooters were out. I mean, scooters were so popular there. I saw everyone zipping around on a scooter, and I'm like, I have so many more mobility issues. Like, I wish I had a
Yeah,
scooter and could just zip around.
it's
Oh my
like
God,
people
don't
that
get
they
me
don't need the
started
scooter.
with the scooter. There are some places that I go to, these people should not be on scooters. And I'm like, dude, I'm over here in a manual chair pushing myself around, and you're just like beep, 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 like driving around. I'm just like, damn, man, like, like those kind of things kind of put me in a humbling moment too. I'm like, damn, if it, like I can do this and this guy's doing that, it kind of makes me feel good about myself, you know.
Yeah, there were some people using scooters for more of a convenience than I think
Yeah,
like some
Oh,
serious
100%.
issues. And I was like,
it's
man, I wish I had your scooter right now.
it's like I'm a little overweight. Oh, I gotta get the scooter. Like, oh, so it's hot. No, stop it, man. We need the scooters, man.
Walking's way too
Yeah,
much for me today. I'm gonna scooter around. Man, I wish I can walk, man. Like you don't even
Yeah,
understand.
just give me
yeah,
the option, baby.
Yeah,
yeah. And it was
exactly.
90 degrees too. So I was like, maybe I can scoot around from, place to place with my crutches. But I was like, there's just no way I'm going to get around this whole facility.
Ooh, yeah,
Yeah,
the heat and then the amount of the amount of steps you probably put in that day too, man. It's just because I know how big those parks can be, and it's just like, woo, it's a lot. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? That's an exercise all in itself. You don't have to go to the gym. That day is your gym.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, and some of the things I've kind of learned, it's almost like a diminishing return of enjoyment if I'm like trying to physically get around somewhere. So if it's something I'm trying to enjoy, like I'm taking a manual chair, I'm taking a scooter, I'm doing something so I can actually laugh and enjoy things. Because if I'm having to, use my crutches to get from point A to point B, and it's, physically challenging, then, it gets to a point where I'm no longer having fun and I'm not enjoying it. I'm just trying to get from point A to point B. So I have to be careful, like when I'm pushing myself and when I need to just, sit back and enjoy it and take the easy route.
yeah,
And
you
I
definitely
know
don't want to burn yourself out. That's for sure, right? You know what I mean? Just
Yeah.
just like you said,
facts.
I feel the same way because I have a what do you call it, power assist on my chair, and like this sometimes like I'll want to push myself as much as I possibly can, but then there's some points where my shoulders is just burnt out, and I'm just like, all right, I'm sticking that sucker on and let's go. Like, and these are the things that like I think about constantly with people when I see them pushing along. I'm like, I mean, you're a beast right there. Like I said, when I watch some of the stuff you do, I'm like, oh my God. I was like, I need to push a little bit more. But there's also points where you just like you said, you have to take back and go, all right, do I want to enjoy this or do I want to push myself where at the end of the day I'm going to be dead? You know what I mean? So it's
Yeah.
like a good balance you need to get, I think.
Yeah. And I mean, I had to learn it the hard way sometimes because I think I took a trip and I was trying to prove myself I could get through the airport without a wheelchair. And, it took time. I was able to get, or I was able to get to the gate through the airport on my own. It was a big accomplishment. And then I finally met up with some friends in California and we were walking to go out to dinner. I tripped, I fell, my feet were dragging. I mean, I was absolutely done for the day. And I was like, all of this just so I could prove I could get through the airport. I'm like, yeah, that probably
Yeah.
wasn't worth it. Like next time I need to just take the help, just
It's
take
a
the easy
learning
way.
experience, right? It's a learning experience.
Yeah, definitely.
It's because we're stubborn athletes, Like we think that we think
100%.
no, we'll be all right. We can push through this, and then it's like wait a minute. Then somebody
Then
comes in. Then
then the
it's
white
like
flag
it's like
comes out.
yeah, it's like wait, slow down. It's like let me put you back in your place. Like listen, this Sharon,
Yeah.
you go fall right now, so you learn a little bit. This
Mhm.
Yeah, with us, it's so easy to see those things physically, but I mean, it applies to people that are in
100%.
business, working, or anything. Like, I
Oh
call
yeah.
them reset days. Like, if you're pushing yourself hard, every once in a while, you just need that reset day to get things back in line, get your mindset right, to be able to think of a new idea, to knock out a project, whatever it may be. And sometimes we push ourselves into a hole, and it's hard to get out.
That's true. It definitely applies to all aspects of life.
Hmm.
But I know you gotta head out in a little bit. So I mean, if
Yeah,
there's any other questions, Tone? Anything you want to talk about before we head out? Because I know he's got daddy duties, baby. You gotta.
yeah, daddy daycare.
Yeah, like no, I think we touched upon a lot of things today that I didn't like I said I went into this not really knowing you at all, so it's like it's nice to be able to talk to another human being that's pushing themselves to be a better person than they were yesterday, man. I love that, and it's I thank you very much for coming on our podcast and just speaking upon it.
Yeah, thanks for letting me join, and thank you, Casey, for inviting me, especially since we haven't had like really any in-depth talks. I mean, this could have went south. You could have been like, "Man, that guy's a jerk."
Nah,
Like,
come on, man. I mean, you knew, but I knew just from our conversation on just casual, like hitting each other up. I knew as soon as I started the podcast, you were one of the first people I put on the list that I wanted to reach out to because I knew what the conversation would be good, and I want I feel like your story needs to people need to see it, and hopefully with our we're gonna have a little make a little promo commercial, little advertising just so people could see like this how amazing and how you're pushing through life and you still got your dad you're not just somebody who's identifying as a paralyzed man or whatever. You got so many different hats, and that's exactly what me and Tony we don't want to be put in a box.
Hmm.
And but yeah,
well,
no, I'm glad you came, and I just wanted to give a shout out to our sponsors, Seven Borough Apparel. And Tony, by the way, we have another sponsor on the way. A
Oh,
nice little, we got a CBD
nice.
company coming through.
oh,
So
all right, all
that's
right.
stay tuned, folks. And
we're gonna have to really put in some like time for our sponsors pretty soon. We're
oh
gonna
no,
have to
but
like.
listen, they're gonna be. Listen, I already. It's in the works, Tone. Don't you fret.
Uh,
Make it
I
happen.
mean, don't get me wrong. We're on like this is like our third episode, and we're already getting
Yeah.
some good sponsors. So I'm happy with it. I'm just
Mhm.
happy that we can do what we want to do, which is a beautiful thing nowadays. Is like we can actually just go out there and just speak to awesome people that inspire, and like also through this podcast, I love that you can see us just be us, like our personalities, and just what we need to do to just better ourselves every day, like I say all the time. So.
Yeah, my fiance is from New York, so I love the East Coast vibe in conversation.
Oh
You
my
know,
God.
we talk a little different out here. Tony's from Rhode Island. I'm
Mhm.
from New York, and we like the accents a little. We got a little swagger to it, little
Just a
twang,
little bit, just a little bit.
just a smidge.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
so I'm gonna sign us off, and my name is Casey Ellen,
And my name is Tony Chamberlain.
and we are sitting
Sitting
tall.
tall.
Woo woo!